Hi. I didn't mean to do that, but hi, guys. Here we are again on Freedom Friday, and yeah. So today our session is. Can you just fire it to me, Tony? It's. I wanted to say a couple of words about it. Can you tell me the title again, Tony? Oh, can't hear you. It's using your innate and intelligence to design your life. Okay. And so, what I wanted to say, hi, Tahira. What I wanted to say is, um, if you don't design your life, you will get a life by default. Someone will design it for you, right? And we come from an attitude where we allowed institutions, we allowed governments, we allowed organizations, we allowed community leaders and all sorts to design our lives for us, and then we just kind of willingly followed. And that was kind of pretty much how things happened for tens of or thousands of years, or anyway during the agricultural period, the so-called civilized period where people settled down into towns and cities. So this happened more and more where people they just followed what their parents did. So if your father was a blacksmith, you became a blacksmith. And even my Ayurvedic teacher, German guy, he was going to become a postmaster because his father was a postmaster, and his grandfather was a postmaster in this little village in Germany, right? And he decided, I can't do this. I can't become a postmaster. I don't want to become a postmaster. So he left the village, to the horror of everybody. And this is like the 20th century, okay? And then he went somewhere, and he joined an Ayurvedic school, right? And he became an Ayurvedic practitioner. So he followed his dream, and he broke out of a life that had been designed for him. So we now are in a position, I believe, where a lot of things that were designed for us, for instance, the banking systems, the financial systems, that were all designed for us and to protect us, maybe or maybe not, yeah. Um, Now we realize they're not working for us. And so we've got the option of either them changing things for us and say, okay, we'll reset it for you, or we'll redesign it for you, or we design our own lives, we design our own finances, we design our own economies, and yeah, and we basically take charge of our lives. So what Tony is going to talk about, I think, I hope my introduction is relevant. Is he's going to talk about how do you get into designing your life and using your innate intelligence to create something for yourself and to become yourself, to express who you are, to express your talents, your vision, your dreams, your drives, and come out from within and become a unique person in a designed life. So yeah, welcome to the show, Tony, Crypto Knight, and look forward to what you have to say about designing your life with your innate intelligence.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Gerald. Great to be here again. Always enjoy Fridays. It's
Yeah, thank
always know
goodness it's
then.
Friday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank God for Fridays.
yeah.
Not that these days the weekends seem to be mainly work, but anyway, yeah, I will share my screen and then I can talk into the slides. So just bear with me for a second.
Right. And you can
So yeah,
close out the stock images there, so it's a bigger space on the right. Yeah.
uh,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, I'll go to slideshow. Yeah. Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
cool. So
Cool.
really, designing our life is really about creating. Now, I think Tahira is on the call, and we've
Yeah.
had. I am looking at creating a module around this for the Golden Door Awards, the Golden Door organization. So this is going to be a little bit of a practice run, I guess, but with a few twists, with a few things thrown in for particularly for Freedom Friday, because it's a bit of a longer presentation, and yeah, I just want to practice basically. So this is really about how to create your life, how to design your life is to be ultimately to be creative. And to me, we're here to create our heart's desire, and we do that by being our elemental self and applying the prime elements of nature. And this is what I call living natural intelligence. So we're not just thinking about it. We're not just, um, you know, trying to sort of think about what it is. We're actually incorporating it into our everyday life. We're actually living it rather than just, um, doing it. We're actually being it as well as doing it, actually. So it's actually both. So the way I see it, we are all born creators. We're born creators because the fact that we are born, because we basically, our soul basically created us, and it's created our physical body. So in effect, our creative aspect is actually inbuilt into our very makeup. Our soul is the ultimate creator. It's just that when we identify purely with physical reality, we lose a lot of that impetus. We lose our creative talents. So, yeah, we are all always creating something. However, um, what we're creating may not be what you actually want. And the thing is, you can't think about what you don't want without creating it. In other words, the more you say, the more that you think you don't want it, the more you will get it. Also, it's what you so it's not just what you think about; it's what you don't even realize that you are thinking about, or so what's housed in the subconscious mind is what's running the show. That's 90% of creation. It's happening on autopilot without you even being aware that it's actually happening. So, another way of saying this is to become a self actualized being. So, self actualization is um, how they used to teach, spirituality of old was this is how they approached it. Spirituality was talking about self actualization, which is like a conscious um, doing and being of life. It's actually creating your life in by design. That's what self actualize means. And to me, this is what is true freedom. Because when you tap into this, when you start to actualize your life, then you realize there's nothing that you can't do. So what I do is I like to use models to help map out our creations, our ideas, and the key numbers here in those models is 3, 5, and 7. 3 is the Trinity, which is pretty much the foundation aspect of our life. 3, you could say, is also related to the 3D. It's what shows up in the physical. 5 is related to the 5 prime elements, and 7 is also a very a very key number for creating, but in a more refined, more detailed, more subtle way. 7 relates to our chakras, our main chakra system. And 7 is a very key number. There's a saying that the whole universe is actually modeled on 7, but it's really modeled on 3, 5, and 7. And then you've got, all the numbers mean something. Every number has its own symbolic as well as literal meaning. But in this case, I'm just focused on these, mainly on the 3 and the 5 in this presentation. So symbols or models, that's what kind of models are, sort of symbols or graphics. They speak louder than words, but actions speak even louder. And outcome is the proof. So how our life is showing up is proof of how we're doing in our creative endeavors. We know if we're on track by the feedback that's coming back to us in our physical reality. And it's in the physical reality that we can gauge it and measure it. I also call the Trinity, I call it freedom. Freedom to freedom model is the basis. And these are the 3 key objectives of life, which can be spread across all different contexts. 3 is like, it could be the foundation, the process, and the outcome. That's 3 key things that create life. We can't focus all our energy just on the foundation. We can't focus it all on the process, and we can't focus it totally on the outcome. We have to actually integrate our foundation with the process and with ultimately what's showing up in life and the action. And it could be 3 key questions like how, why, and what, or when, who, and where. So we also have to ask good questions, and we need to start somewhere. So keep it simple, start with the 3, and then we get that foundation laid, and then we can start building in more detail and more specifics. But it's very important as to who is really a key foundation, because the who, everything starts with us. And who is very important for building teams and businesses, because you need to know who you're working with, who your customers are, and all of that. But the ultimate who is, who are you? That is the ultimate foundation, because nothing happens unless you are giving it the green light. You are the one who decides your life. No one else is creating your life for you. It's always on us, and this is why self-responsibility is an absolutely key value. So here's a symbol of the 3, the freedom model, or the Trinity. This is very similar to the Celtic. The Celtics have their symbol. It's not quite circles, but it's very much an interrelated sort of like the Celtic knot sort of thing is the basis of this as well. This is what we call the vector diagram. The vectors are where they intersect. And so say, if I go on to the next slide and give the detail. So this is like how do you apply the Trinity to our life? This is the key thing, is application and implementation, because it's all well and good to think about it, but we have to actually apply it. And this is where it's difficult for a lot of people, because we're taking something that's very abstract and we're bringing it into the physical. And it's a step down process, from above to below. And this is where a lot of people get confused, because they either got their head in their clouds and they're not particularly focused on the physical, or you're totally focused on the physical, and you haven't got any idea of the actual energetics and the spirituality aspect of our life. So there are always three key values to any project, endeavor, or life itself. So like I say, you can apply this to your project, to your business, to your relationship, to to anything, even in the present moment. Maybe three key things that are important to you and what you're doing right now. Or it could be a very bigger picture life itself. You could have your three key values for your life that are fundamental. And this is often used, this Trinity is often used in businesses. You'll have three key values which you see as vital to your project. And ultimately, again, this is how the Trinity comes through, is in that we are the creator, we are creators, and then this is the process is creating. So we're doing something in order to create our project, and then there's the end product, the creation itself. So I think what's very good to do is to apply three values that attend to each of these three. So this comes down to knowing who you are, and this could be like refined right down to say you know what your key strengths are. And then there's the creating process. So this is how you're creating it. So, you might say, well, you've got your simple mission statement or how you're going to do it. Whatever it is you do, there is a certain process involved. So you need to know who, how, and what, basically. So you need a value a value to the creation. So that could be something like, say, you want to create more abundance. That's the creation. And so how are you going to do that? Could be through prospecting, or you're seeing so many clients a day. And who are you while you're doing that creating? Well, you're going to be focused on giving your best value to the customers. You're going to be confident, and you're going to set some parameters about how many people you want to see, or what your attitude or state of mind is when you're going out and doing this. So that's just this is a very rough example. I'm just giving you an overview, but you kind of hopefully get the idea. So another way of this is, there's many parallels as to how this is promoted. The Holy Trinity of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. That's the Christian Trinity. Really, what the Father is the Creator. In ancient times, Father was not gender-based. Father does not mean a man in ancient language. The Father meant the universal Creator. And the Son, you could say, we are the Son, but you could also have a reference that it could also be our actual sun, sun in the sky, because they are interchangeable. But effectively, us humans, we are kind of the sun, and that's male. Again, it's genderless. And the Holy Ghost, you could say, is our soul or our spirit, and that is the energetic aspect that is the link between our physical body, our physical being, and the Creator, the ultimate universal Creator. So we are gifted with the same qualities as the Father. We are born in that same basic principle: as above, so below. The laws of a correspondence, or as above, so below, always hold true. They never lie. These are objective truths. And when we understand the objectivity of truth at this level, then we can that will help our creative process, because then we're basing our life on fundamental truths that don't change. In Hindu mythology or Hindu philosophy, if you like, it's really a philosophy, not really a religion. They call it Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the preserver, and Shiva is the destroyer. But Shiva is also the creator. He represents both because it's a cycle that's constantly going around and around. So Shiva is dual like that, but he's often known as the destroyer. You could say, life has always been created, preserved for a while, and then it fades away, and then something new comes along. So this is what we see. This is what happens with us, our bodies. We're born, we live, and then we die. It's just the natural order of life. So again, as I mentioned, the key trinity is basically foundation, and that could be energetic foundation, it could be physical foundation, and then there's the process and the outcome. Or, said another way, it's seed, nurture, harvest. So we seed things in our intentions, in our imagination, in our thinking. We nurture through our emotions, and then we harvest through our hands and feet, and through our actions as well. It is a reaction to our original action and our seeding. So the 5 prime elements, the earth, water, this is in order of from most gross, which is earth, most physical matter. Matter is the most, it's the basis foundation for our physical life. So earth is the foundation, water is the next most subtle, and then air, and then fire, and then ether. So again, this is showing it as above, so below. Everything, if all ether is here on Earth, and there is physical matter out in space, with planets and suns and stars. So there is, and it's a whole chain, really. And so this is what we're doing, is we're integrating these 5 elements into a seamless flow of life, from gross matter to subtle energy and back again. And the pentagram is a good symbol. This is an ancient symbol that goes to antiquity. It gets, it can get maligned. Some people can see it as an evil symbol, which I find really interesting, because certain powers that be will use symbols in a negative manner, but ultimately they're just neutral. Energy is neutral, symbology is neutral, and we put the meaning on it. But this is an ancient symbol that depicts many things. It's not just about the elements. It's used in ancient Christian times, in the pagan times. This was an extremely important symbol. So the prime elements. So starting with Earth, the qualities. These are qualities, by the way. These elements. I'm starting to come down into the more. Okay, how do we apply, or how do we work with these elements? And the earth element has a certain quality, has a certain state, has a certain nature. There's a certain nature to the earth element. And I'm not talking about the earth planet here, I'm talking about the earth element. The earth planet is another example of earth, but as an integrated force of all the elements. But when we talk about the specific earth element, we all have this element in us. It's inbuilt in us. And it depicts practicality, detailed focus. It's analytical, it's grounded, it's structure focused. Often the question is how. Earth people want to know how. How do you create that? How do you do that? How is this going to work? That's what an Earth person is likely to ask. Of course, we have to We can apply all 6 questions to this, but this is a sort of a main overriding question, if you like, that is particularly earthy. And then you've got the water element. So water people, a lot of people are very watery. These are people who are very emotional. We all have emotions, but sometimes water people, like when water spills out from its container, it's like you get overly emotional. So we've got to have all these qualities in balance. But this is just the quality of water: is it's pure emotion, it's empathetic, it's sensitive. They're often homely focused, family focused, that sort of thing. It's a very much a right brain aspect, as is Earth, by the way. They're very right brained. And a key question here is who. It could also be why. Water people often want to know why as well, which is really good. But these are just general guidelines. These are not literal for everybody. These are just generalizations so that people get an idea of how the elements can work inside us, with us. So an air person is going to be very intellectual focused. The air people are deep thinkers and critical thinkers, and they want to know reason, they want to know logic. They're often engineering types, they are technicians, often they are mathematicians, they can be very highly intellectual with numbers and with music as well. Although musical people often have a very good balance between water and air. It's the mechanics, the mechanics amongst us. It's very left-brained, and often a key question is what? What are you doing? What are you thinking? What are you creating? And then fire people are, and I've got a lot of fire in me. Fire people are very passionate. They're very much about people, whereas earth people and air people are really concerned about things and what you're creating or how things work. Fire people are much more like air. They're another step up from air. So they're very much and often have their head in the clouds, dreamers, imaginative people, and they love social interaction. They love people. They love getting out there and shooting the breeze and that sort of thing. They're active. They often have a lot of excitement, and again, this can be overexcited. It can be too much. So this is again where you've got to balance. If we can integrate all of these in a perfect whole, then we will be the most balanced person on earth. And often they have big love in their heart for people and for what they're doing. They're also quite sensitive. Whereas water people are often very emotional, fire is a more subtle take on emotions. It's more feeling based, and often fire people want to know why. And then ether, which is really beyond. It's beyond our physical side. It's beyond our physical reality. It's contained within physical reality. So ether is everywhere. There's nowhere that ether is not, actually. So we all have an etheric component, and I see ether as a universal kind of thing. People who are particularly highly spiritually aware are very much tapped into the ether. Etheric people, or people who are very focused on the etheric side, they want to know the universal truths. They want to, it's not just about thinking or feeling for them, it's about knowing. And it's about ultimately knowing source. And it's also related to the electromagnetics, because ether is really, the etheric component is really um, totally entwined with the electromagnetic component. Plasma being electric, and the magnetics, it's very much aligned with ether. And it's the big picture why. It's the ultimate why. It's the ultimate spiritual knowledge, really. So then we got the circle. The circle is the master symbol, really, because all things are contained within the circle. So you could literally draw a circle around anything. Everything is made up of circles and triangles as well, but ultimately, like, everything is spherical. Energy moves in circular motion. The torus field moves in circular motion. Our planets and our sun is all spherical. Of course, that might be debated with those who think the Earth is flat, but I digress. I don't think the Earth is flat while everything else is sphere. I can't see how these people come to that conclusion. But anyway, that's another matter. To me, our cells, little cells in our body that make us up, are made of trillions of little circles, and and we're moving in a circular motion around the sun. We're not moving in a perfect circle around the sun. We're spiraling around, or we're trailing behind, I believe. And planets are, they're doing a sort of semicircular, ecliptic type motion. So it's certainly not a straight line. And then you've in here, I've got the cross. I mean, I tried to find an image that took it to the edges, but I couldn't find it. But anyway, just imagine that cross goes to all the edges, and every of the Platonic solids, the 5 key Platonic solids, which are the 5 key shapes which make up all matter and all of life, fit perfectly within the circle. So that shows you that there's something about the circle that is absolutely perfect. And it's 360 degrees, which is related to, degrees are related not just to temperature, but to angles. Whoops, sorry. Degrees are related to angles as well as temperature. And those angles are very important. But I'm just going to deal with the basic cross, 90 degrees. The 9 comes up a lot when you talk about how the universe is constructed. And so that cross, it's really, you could see this vertical line as the first dimension. Think of that as the first dimension. In the beginning, it was just a line. And then we have another line intersecting it. That's creating 2 dimensions. And then if you've got imagine a line going from forward to back, which you wouldn't be able to see here, but imagine in the very center here, there's a line, then you've got the 3rd dimension. And so this cross relates to, it's the basis of our 3D reality, and it's the basis of time and space. It's also directional, which is pointing to the 4 key directions of east, west, north, south. And it's also depicting the 2 equinoxes and the 2 solstices. This is why these symbols are the most ancient symbols in antiquity, because they're basically depicting the basis of life, really. So to take it a bit further, with those 4 directions, we also got 4 seasons. And so we could look at spring. Spring is you could say that's the creative it's a very heavily creative season. Things come to life in spring, and the spring equinox. So I'm also putting in the equinox there because the equinox is really where the heart of spring, if you like. And I depict that as being key to the east direction, east being the rising sun. These I've depicted these for the southern hemisphere because I've got summer solstice as north because that's where our sun is tending towards to when we're in the southern hemisphere. If you're in the northern hemisphere, you would probably invert this, and summer solstice would be south and winter solstice would be north, and east and west would stay the same. So basically, spring is where you do creative action. It's when you sow your garden. So perfect time to sow new ideas as well. It's new beginnings. It's where you test and measure things. It's it's a communicative time. You're communicating with your team or with your family or with your business partners about what are you going to do, how are we going to create this business, or whatever it is. How are we going to run this life? How are we going to run this house? That sort of thing. So we all have seasons in our life, not necessarily when it's spring. We can have a spring aspect to our business when it could be the depths of winter. These can be overlaid onto our own life depending on where we're at and what we're doing. So the summer solstice is the summer period is really where, when the sun's at its peak, it's hot, you've got long days. So it's naturally the time when we're out there, we're getting active. This is often related to agriculture too, where that'll be the time when there's a lot to do out in the fields. And this is how people ran their lives. So similarly, in summer is a time when we socialize, when we might do a lot of sales action, say if it's a business, or networking, nurturing, it's passionate, lots of movement and lots of communicating going on with our partners, with clients, with the wider community. And then coming into autumn, as we turn into autumn, I see that as very much a west time because it's a time when we're starting to go within. It's a time when it can be an emotional time as we start harvesting and we're reaping what we've sown. We're reviewing and we're accounting for things. And in business, it could be a time when you're communicating with your advisors. You're starting to formulate a new plan as to what's next. So I attribute autumn to emotion, and then come into winter, and there should always be a time in our life, in our day, in our week, month, and in a year where we should go within, where we need to not completely stop, but we need to find that non-action. We need to find stillness and silence. It's a time of recharging. Short days, so we spend a lot of time indoors. So we make the best use of that by, we might be writing, you might be just meditating a lot, you might be planning, strategizing. And this is a time where I say it's communicating within and going and listening rather than doing all the talking. It's a time to listen to yourself, to your partners, to nature. Yeah, so this is just an example of how these cycles are constantly revolving through our life. The Native American medicine wheel is a perfect depiction of these cycles of life and much, much more. They ran their life based on the medicine wheel, and they planned accordingly, depending on the season and depending on They use the directions in a very direct way. They would face certain directions to draw in the energy that that direction affords. Each direction has a different quality about it as well. That's very subtle, but it's very apparent once you tune into it. So then you can come down to looking at some key aspects of your own self, your own profile. This is where we get to understand our strengths and our weaknesses, our talents, our character. What do you love to do that's effortless? When we're creating, we've got to be doing what we love, and then we'll love what we do. We've got to have that love for our work. Otherwise, it's not going to provide fruit. It's not going to bear abundance. So you've got to know, this is where you've got to inquire to yourself, what do you like to do and what don't you like to do? And then you can coordinate with your partner, your husband, wife, business team accordingly, and you can apportion certain tasks to those people who have a natural ability for those particular functions. Often you can either have a leader, a supporter of the leader, or a follower. So, everyone, again, there's no right or wrong. We can't all be leaders. If we're all leading, then nothing's going to ever get done. And we can't have all followers, because if we're all following, we'll be running around in circles with no direction. So we need to know where we fit in this. Are we introverted? Are we extroverted? This is a good clue as to, if you're a fire person, you're probably going to be extroverted. Fire and air is extrovert. Water and earth are introvert people. You can also look at, things like astrology as well. But I suggest do not look at the personality astrology, what I call personality astrology. We want soul astrology. And if we look at the horoscope, and the zodiac is actually the ultimate map of us. It's an imprint of certain energies that come in when we're born. We are stamped with these types of qualities that may be inert, they may be apparent, or they may not be. So we've got to do the work to extract who we are and how we need to operate. So I've got here, apply questionnaire to ascertain your strongest elements. So I have been constructing a questionnaire that we could ask people, and from the answers, it will be very easy to find out what element you are strongest in, what element you're weakest in, and then that'll give you a very good idea of what is likely to be the things you love to do, or your strengths, your weaknesses, and your talents, and that sort of thing, just by understanding your base elements. So another trinity comes in intention, attention, and action. So we've got intention is really the seed. Intention is what do you intend for your life? They say intention, interesting words, is we go into the tent, intent.